you go. Now we're recording. Now I can do it properly. I think. Oh, exit. There you go. I've got the hang of it properly now, I think. Anyway, got a bit of an announcement to make. Apparently, Steve's not doing his magic show this morning, which I'm really disappointed about. He was going on about it yesterday, about how he was going to be doing a magic show, and now he's not. So
you laughed at me.
I didn't laugh at you. I was laughing with you. There's a difference.
You're laughing at me. I know the difference.
Anyway, feedback on your images. Hopefully you're going to be starting to post some stuff to Instagram under the hashtag UGBPI2020, and don't forget to tag me into it, and also put a hashtag as to what theme it is as well, so I know which one that you're posting for. So if you want to start doing that, it will be cool. Once you get feedback on the image, if you want to delete it off, I'm quite happy for you to do that. So once you get the feedback, I'll give feedback. I encourage Steve to give some feedback, but it depends whether he's awake or not, and so when we can get it out all going for you, sorted. Right. Next Wednesday, we're having a photography get together for those who put their names down. It's still not a bit too late if you want to get yourself into a group of 5 and come for a bit of a walk around the lake or wherever we're going to be doing it. I'll be sending out more details about that in the next couple of days as to where we're going to be meeting up and at what time we're meeting up and who's going to be there and so on. Okay, the 4th and 11th of November, they are days that we're giving you to actually work on your projects. So we won't be doing anything live on those 2 days on the old Tinternet. So those days you have the from 9 till 12 free to actually go out and do some snapping and get some pictures for your project. So that's what we're giving you on those 2 days. And then on the 18th and the 25th of November, this is where we're going to be doing some one-to-one sessions on Teams and talking about your projects. Again, I'll be giving you more details on that over the next few weeks and let you know what times we're going to be doing that, how we're going to be doing that, and so on. You all right?
Yeah, on my screen that's not advancing. I think I've just frozen.
Steve's frozen. It's going to burst into song any minute now. Okay, so let's have a look at some Instagram stuff and the themes that you've got. So one of them, I haven't put these in order that you're doing them. They're in any order. So we've got food stock. What can we be doing for the food stock one? Well, you can be taking feedback there. Yeah, you could take pictures of your dinner or somebody else's dinner and stuff like that. But what I don't want to be doing is seeing a picture of, you know, sloppy beans on toast or anything like that. If you're going to be doing sort of like a picture like this, really make it. You right there? Yeah, make it presentable so that you know, it looks really nice. Think about how you're going to be setting the plate up. Think about the plate and the contrasting colour and things that work together really nicely. So think about the lighting as well. So you could do quite a simple shot of some food on a plate, you know, but you know, make it look really nice. Put some really good effort into it. Again, just don't slap some beans on a piece of toast and think that's it.
None of the slides are frozen.
Huh?
And the slides are frozen on some people's screens.
Is it? Oh, technical issues. Are we working?
Just, see, let me know. Just try pressing the slide up there.
Is it working?
Working now, yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Steve says it's working.
Anonymous says it's working.
Anonymous says it's working. I love the fact that all our students are called Anonymous. Thank you. So you've got an image like this where you could be using seeds and dried fruit or anything similar to that. So again, you know, just a nice, clean, uncluttered background and some seeds. So you've got the shapes, you've got the colours, variation. It's a simple shot, but quite an effective shot there. And again, you know, with pumpkins coming up. Is this a pumpkin? I think it's a pumpkin of some sort, isn't it? Yeah, with the pumpkin season coming up, don't forget you've got all different types of squashes going on out there, pumpkins, squashes, all sorts. So you could make this quite decorative. This one's quite an autumn feel to it. So again, it's could be an autumn image as well as being sort of like one for your food stock. So if you look at the colours within the image here, how the wooden table, the wooden floor, the white battered chair, the brown of the leaves going with the yellow of the food, all of those colours all kind of like match up together and work quite well. So, you know, think about your colours and how they're going to work together. We're going to be talking about colours and working together in a little bit when we look at colours. So we've got creatures. Now, like I said before, creatures can be anything from an ant to a giraffe, you know, big things, small things, in between things, anything really. Even any pictures that you might be able to take under a microscope. So you might have microscopic creatures. You know, this is open to any kind of creatures really in any form. So, you know, open your mind, think about the what you could capture and see where you can go with it. Is it still all working fine? Good man. Yeah, so, you know, there's creatures that you can go to in the zoo or anything like that. The only thing I wouldn't look about really, be careful with creatures in don't sort of like try and steer away from your family pets and all the rest of it. You know, try and make yourself a little bit more difficult for you to actually capture the creature. I mean, I've seen some really nice pictures in the past of people's cats and dogs and horses and stuff like that, but it is nice if you can actually step away from the animals which are around you, just to open up sort of like, you know, the difficulty for yourself. So, you know, I do appreciate that when students have made just things a little bit more difficult for themselves and gone that extra mile. That really does, you know, make me happy. Keep me happy, Steve's happy. Like he said this morning, if you keep the wife happy, you've got a happy life. And so keep me happy, Steve's happy, isn't he, at the end of the day? Yeah. Snails is really wonderful creatures, you know, with the spirally bits going on inside them. So you've got nice shape and texture and patterns to the snails and so on. You know, even slugs. I mean, I think the texture on slugs is is quite nice as well. Yeah, the slime they leave as they go along the old pavement there. Yeah, so you could be looking at anything really. Yeah. So reflection, what we've got for reflection. So reflection, as we spoke about before, can be, maybe somebody's reflection in a mirror or water kind of surface, or, shadows being reflective. So again, it's down to your interpretation really of how you look at the subject and how you see it and find something interesting. So these themes that we've set here are quite, expensive in what you want to do. So, we've seen some really, really interesting images over the years and from the themes that we set. And, and I know that this year's group's going to give us some really even more interesting images coming back from us. So reflection, there's a lot of thought could be put into that one.
Can we use images from PP1 that were in the portfolio or images that were additional and not marked?
You can use, the question is, can you, what was it? Can you what?
Can you use images that were in the portfolio but were unmarked, not marked?
Yeah, any images from, you can use any images from when we started in the second year, as long as the images haven't been put in to be marked. So as long as they haven't received a mark, then I'm happy if you put them in as additional images in your portfolio, but they didn't receive a mark. So any images which were taken from, was it January? Yeah, it was January this year. So any images that you might have taken from January of this year are acceptable as long as they haven't been used in any other coursework in any other way. So including, any other projects that you might have received a mark for. So as long as the image hasn't received or been part of a marked process, then I'm happy for you to use it.
And the 4 assignments are due on the 12th of January 2021 at 12 p.m.
The assignments are what?
The assignments are due at the 12th of January.
Yeah, your assignments are due in on the 12th of January at 12 o'clock, 2021. So that's the time scale you've got for that. 12th of January at 12, 2021. And I believe that Steve's doing it through Moodle, I believe.
Wow.
Oh, he says he is. Oh, I love it when Steve is dominant. So yes, we got what? You're going home? Okay. So you've got like reflections in a puddle. So this one here, I just love all the different shapes which are going on the surface of the picture, and then you've got the underneath where you can actually look through the water. So you've got layers and dimensions. It's not dementia. I think I'm getting dementia. Yeah. Dimensions, yes, layers, depth, and different things which are coming into it. Down here in this, well, my mouse don't work, but down there in that corner with those bricks, that's just a little bit, distracting in some way. Not too distracting, but it is a little bit distracting. But just be watching out for, like before we said before, edges and corners. Don't have things coming in or sitting on the corners and the edges and so on. But I really do like this one in terms of like the reflection which is happening. So you've got different depths to the story, the image. So reflections in your lenses. I've seen students do similar to this, which is was good images and stuff like that. So you've got your camera lenses and you've got reflections going on in it. So you can reflections into glass surfaces, reflections into mirror, reflections into water, any kind of reflections. Even your shadow, casting of your shadow onto the ground is kind of like a reflection as well. It's a reflection of you or a reflection of somebody else. So yeah, so if you're unsure, just drop me an email, ask me, and I'll be able to answer it. But talking of emails, I'm quite happy for questions to come in via emails, but don't send any images in via email for feedback, because it just clogs up. We're getting so many emails at the moment with the way that we're teaching at the moment. It just, it's so difficult. It's a lot easier for you to do it by Instagram, or when we have the one-to-one sessions, if you want to show some images, then I'm happy for you to do it in that way. It's just don't do it via email, because it slows the system down completely, because we don't have a lot of megabyte transfer within the university system. So. Frozen. Oh, I thought he was putting his hand up then for a question. No? Or it's just the fact Frozen came up, his favourite film.
PTSD.
Oh, what?
PTSD. I'm so traumatised by that film. I've seen it so many times.
No, get out of it. He dresses up as Anna at the weekend. Don't. No, it's a bit. Frozen.
Sven, actually.
So this, it could be you could be looking at water or any kind of liquid which is frozen or frozen in time, like we've spoken about. Movement frozen, all different kinds of frozen. So again, it's leaving for you to think about how you can interpret the theme and what you can come up with. So this is a nice time, like for frost and stuff like coming up on the in the winter mornings. We're going into winter now from autumn, so don't forget, put your clocks back at the weekend. Is this weekend clocks go back, isn't it? Steve ain't got a clue. I think it's this weekend, isn't it? Eh?
My car's still on the previous time.
Yeah. So get an extra hour's sleep at the weekend. So put your clocks back and think about your frozens. So yeah, so in terms of frozen, atmospheric frozen, so we could look at mist and fog and stuff like that. So frozen can be also interpreted as a kind of a wintry shot. So you've got frozen snow on the ground, or mist or fog, or kind of weather conditions as well. So yeah, those are all good. And here we go, frozen in time. So we've got a balloon bursting with the water, sunglasses, very clever. So frozen in time, you know, people frozen in time, time frozen. Autumn. So autumn is usually about these kind of colours and food and events that are usually associated with this time. So normally we'll be talking about things that you could go to in terms of Halloween and what else happens in the autumn? I forgot. Oh, Guy Fawkes, that was the one, yeah, with fireworks going off and so on. But we don't know how we're going to be doing on those kind of events. But yeah, you've got the pumpkins and those kind of colours. So, you know, the dark trees and the oranges and those kind of things, those colours coming out in the autumn time. And so autumn also can be like your weather, look at your weather as well. And autumn as well, I saw some pictures last year, you know, like of there's some very good, not portraits, but, you know, more kind of like a fashion kind of shop, but people wearing autumny colours and, you know, the oranges, reds, yellows and stuff like that. So, you know, be quite expansive with your themes and look at different things. Food again with the, you know, stews, like a bit of a stew. Stew's nice, you know, on the cold day when you get home and the wife's got a nice stew on the stove, eh? And then Steve comes in and it spoils it all. But yeah, so you got stews, ultimately kind of food and that kind of thing. And like I said about your colours, foliage, trees losing their leaves and stuff like that. So you could have very quite stark shots with you know, trees with no foliage on them. Woollerton this time of year as well is quite good, you know, for the stags just be careful because I think it's the rutting season, but you've got the stags and you've got that misty kind of weather, especially if you go down near the lake and you've got the mist coming off the lake, and you can get a nice quite kind of like silhouetted shot of the stag, you know, the breath coming out all frozen and stuff like that. So, you know, Wollaton, but just be careful, you know, the old rutting going on. Human. So this is an interesting one for us in terms of human. So you've got the little humans that you can take pictures of. If you're going to be taking any pictures of somebody else's child, just make sure you've got consent to do that. You know, Steve got himself into trouble for that, but that's another story we won't go into at the moment. Yeah. But yeah, just be careful that you've got the consent of the parents, and just don't go taking pictures of little babies. Yeah. He's all right now. He didn't. It wasn't serious, but it could have been serious. But yeah, little humans we can be looking at, you know, or events happening on, you know, like streets. People on streets. Interesting time at the moment with the masks and, you know, things going on. What could be affecting humans? So you could take a little bit further, or the damage that us humans are doing to the planet and the environment and stuff like that. But it does have to have a human in it in some way. So you just can't sort of like have some plastic which has been thrown away and say, well, you know, that humans have done that. It might not be, you know, you need to have a human in it to so if you wanted to set a shot up of, you know, somebody throwing away a plastic bottle, then you can do that, as long as they pick it up afterwards. That would be nice for the planet. But yeah, you can. There's nothing stopping you from actually setting scenes up, or, you know, staging stuff, and in any way, as long as you're not trying to, you know, deceive anybody in any way. That's fine. So humans within the planet, damage done by humans, all kind of human connections there for you in those images that you can be doing. And so interaction between humans can be shown. Interaction between. Just be very careful. Let's not go too far with interactions with humans. So just be careful on that kind of thing. Yeah, I should use my words more carefully, shouldn't I?
You should, yeah.
I should, yeah.
Get yourself in trouble.
All right. So that was your Instagram pictures. So, you know, think about your portfolio of pictures. There doesn't have to be a connection between the pictures. You know, there are 6 individual images there, so you don't have to make a connection from one image to the other image. You know, you've got the themes to work with there. But some people in the past have actually, you know, used the colours of autumn. They're not gone on to food and stuff like that, making connections between the images in that way. If you try to do that, that might make things a little bit difficult for you. So just concentrate on the 6 images you've got to take and come back with, you know, 6 wonderful images, and that'd be good. But keep them coming into Instagram, hashtag UGBPI 2020, tag me into it, tag Steve into it, and don't forget the hashtag of the image that you're putting forward, whether it be human, create human, food stock, autumn, what else was there, frozen, yeah, and so on. Okay, right. So now we're going to be having just a quick talk about the design of your magazine and how you're going to be laying it out. So we spend a lot of time thinking about the images that are going to be going into the magazine, and then we don't spend so much time looking about the design of it, which is just as important, because we want the design to be aesthetically pleasing for the images, as well as the images being the same for the design. So we've got to look at about how we're going to be laying the images out on the page. what colors are we going to be using with them, how the typography is going to work, and all of how these things come together so that they all complement each other and work nicely together.
Do they have to include technical information on the portfolio?
You don't have to include any technical information. We take it not for granted, but we understand that you now understand about the technical side of the images that you're creating. So no, you don't have to include any technical information. If you want to put in, say, like a title to the image, you can do that. I'm happy for you to do that, but obviously we've got to know which one it is. So we've got to know which is the autumn, which one is the frozen, and so on. But if you wanted to put a little title in as well, then I'm quite happy for you to do that. So yeah, so that's a good question. So we've got to start balancing out our magazines so it works visually as well as verbally in time. So your front cover, it's got to be a really, places where this grabs the attention of me and Steve. So what kind of image are you going to be using for the front cover to make us aware that your magazine is the most important magazine that we're going to be looking at? So that is the place where we first start. So like I said in the past, just don't grab any image and think that's got impact, that's going to work, and so on. You've got to be thinking about this in a different kind of way, thinking about the image for the front cover. So our front cover is going to be selling your brand. So you've got to think about it in terms that your magazine that you're creating is your brand. So you've got magazines that are like Outdoor Photographer, National Geographic. What other magazines have we got, Steve? Nature. There's there in front of me, not Nature. Yeah, so they've all got a brand and they've all got a style. So this is where you need to make sure that if your magazine was on the shelf in Smith's or wherever, that would be the one that the public would want to go to, because they recognize the style and the brand and so on. So you've got to really stand out with these kind of things. So how you lay out the magazine in the first place, the front cover is going to be really important. How are you going to bring the problems that we're asking you to do in terms of the two images? How are you going to get those two images together and make them work? How are you going to include your name, the student ID number, my name, the name of the course, the module code, and all those things? Those are elements that we put in to make it difficult for you, make those designs an issue as such. So, if you're lucky, you could get a picture of David Attenborough, couldn't you, on the front cover? But there's nothing stopping you really from trying to get somebody that you might think is a famous person. So if you happen to be walking past the School of Life Science, you might ask Steve to pose for your front cover. I know he's not as famous as David Attenborough, but he's almost there. So yeah. Oh, what?
Depends where you go.
It depends where you go.
Yeah.
Oh, what, in terms of you being famous? I suppose so, yeah. If it's any kind of police station, it would be famous, isn't it? But yeah, so you could have an icon, couldn't you, on the front cover? It's if the person is associated with biology, wildlife, or something like that, and we recognise that person as being connected, there's nothing stopping you from having a picture of a person on the front cover. It doesn't always have to be a wildlife kind of picture. It could, you could have a science kind of a picture. It might be something that you took under the microscope. If you're able to do that, you could put that kind of image onto the front cover. Or the front cover is quite open quite a lot for you to think about how you can make that that impact and what kind of image which is going to be different from everybody else's. So what do you think other people might be putting onto their front cover, and how can you make yours different from everybody else's? That's what helps at the end of the day. So this was one of the front covers from some time ago. Some of the information has been taken off just to help, but I quite like the front cover here in terms of the exposure, the word exposure, and the color, which connects with the colors in the background. So taking samples of color from there, and then the rest of it being silhouetted. So you've got the stag and the tree as a silhouette, and I like the fact that the stag is very small within the frame and the tree is massive, so you've got some really good perspective to the image, showing you how small the stag is within its environment. So not just concentrating on the stag, but actually just making it a small part of the environment, and then showing the tree silhouetted, so there's a lot of dark area for you to place text onto. So that one works really well. I really like that one. And then this one, it was a mid-mark here. The image is quite good and works really well, but it was just the way that things were laid out on the actual front cover. Things really too close to the edge, the color and how it has evolved and so on, right up against the edge there. You should have just come over a little bit and give it a little bit of room, but it almost was there, almost, but it just needed a little bit more thinking to it. And then this one, it's just like, I can't be asked really at the end of the day. I've just got to do this project. So it was almost as if it was slapped together in the last 5 minutes of before handing. So front covers are really important. So let's do some really good work with them and just not put in anything like this, because it really is upsetting at the end of the day. So another two which were quite good there, the layouts put together quite nicely. So these ones were really good. Enjoyed looking at these ones. Okay, so here I'll leave this here just for you, just for a moment, just in case you want to write down the address of this. So this is a thing called Cover Junkie, where you can see all different covers and their designs and stuff like that, and take inspiration from what might be on there. It's a really good website, to get ideas and thoughts from. And I mean, there's in terms of like when you're doing the Instagram, where you're looking at the photographers and you're using their work as influence. There's nothing stopping you from like looking at other magazine covers and using those covers as influence for what we want you to do. So yeah, you could really take a front cover from a magazine which is really, really extreme from what we're doing at the moment now, and taking some kind of inspiration from them and seeing how it works. So have a look at that. So that's Cover Junkie, and they got some good stuff there. So your contents page. So you could be using similar style to what National Geographic do, in terms of having that slender image going down the page on their contents page and laying text out either side of it. So if you're going to be doing that in terms of the contents page, you've got to be thinking about what kind of imagery you're going to be using, and don't forget you've got to put other images in with it as well. So how would it work with this kind of layout? So that's what you've got to think about there. or the RPS journal, which has changed quite a bit over the years, but their format of how they're laying out their contents page is still quite similar, even though it's changed over the years. You know, they still keep kind of like the same kind of style to it. They just move things around in different places. So now going to different styles of magazines, right, away from sort of like the wildlife or photography kind of magazines, you might be able to take inspiration from something what is out there and, you know, revamp it to what you want to do and how you want your style to be. So now if we move on to color, so color, typography are really important parts of what you're doing and how colors work together. So, you know, just don't slap any kind of color down onto the page and think, you know, I like that color, it's going to work. It might not necessarily work. So we're going to have a look at colors, and you'll be able to see, you know, really the meanings of colors and what kind of mood that they give back and stuff like that, and how maybe you can use colors to influence points that you're making within your magazine, or even images that you're kind of trying to portray over. So how different colors that you use with those images and your typography, how they affect the balance and the mood of the actual viewer looking at those pages with those colors on. So we have color wheels here and how colors work together. So in the first one there, you got the complementary. So that's colors which are opposite to each other and how they work together. So you've got examples here of like blues and yellows. They're complementary colors, so they work together. And reds and greens opposite each other, they work together. So, you know, in terms of laying colors down on the page and how they will work together. So then you've got colors what sit together, and then you've got the triadic colors, which, you know, form a 3 points of color. I was just looking there and I haven't put the website, I don't think. There is a website where I can direct you to. I thought I'd put this on there and I haven't. I'm sorry about that, but I will direct you to it. So you can actually look, you know, split complementary colors, square color scheme, and so on. And you can put, you know, into the website, you can actually put a color in and it will show you what colors will work with it. So this is very important about when you are working on your magazine. Get a piece of paper in front of you and do sketches of how you want the magazine to lay out. Just don't go straight to the computer and start throwing elements together. You know, think about, you know, get some coloring pencils and put different colors down on the page and see how they work together, and mess around with mess around with your colors. You could even you know, draw out some kind of title if you wanted to, you know, heading, the name of the magazine, and if you've got the ability to scan it in, you could use that as the, you know, your heading of your magazine. So think about things in different ways. There was one student who actually, for their main titles of each of their articles and stuff like that, had cut stuff out from magazine and used the fonts from different magazines, and then laid that and scanned it and then used that as their design. So there's all different ways of creating a magazine, but normally when I'm creating a magazine, I will get a blank piece of paper, a physical piece of paper in front of me, and I will actually start drawing boxes and laying stuff out and putting colors down and looking to see how the feel of it is before I actually go onto the computer and try to start putting stuff together. So you can have a basic color which translates through the magazine. So you can pull things together in that way by having, you know, a color going through it, or you can actually use a combination of colors. So it might be for the Instagram article, you might have for your headings, and then for the scientific communication, you might go on to another one. But make sure that if you're doing that kind of thing, make sure they complement each other and they don't grind against each other and, you know, become aggressive towards each other. Make the magazine, you know, complement as it goes on. And also, you know, look at, you know, who your magazine is aimed for. What kind of, is it specific for a gender or an age or something like that? You know, are you going for some kind of targeted mixed audience? So, you know, you could actually think about, you know, like Country Life, you know, that's for the people who've got money and stuff like that. You know, you've got those kind of magazines, or you've got other magazines. So the Sun newspaper apparently is for the working class, you know, so you know, they're all class related, and you know, and then you've got other magazines which you know, are basically, you know, saying they want a male audience or a female audience, or then you've got age. So Saga magazine is for apparently the over 50s, which Steve will be getting soon, I think. So, you know, there's all different ways of looking at it. And like I said before, how colour can influence the emotions of people. So if you've got an image that you want somebody to get angry about, you know, red could be used with that image. You know, sometimes in designs within magazines, if there's something like you want people to really react to, sometimes they might use a black and white image and then have some kind of red logo or, you know, heading to the page, so it, you know, it evokes a kind of reaction to people. So you could think about it in that way. If you want somebody to be quite calm when they're looking at your magazines, then you can look at colors, what then do that. So, you know, colors do affect moods and emotions. So things like Blue Planet, colors that they choose within their color schemes and so on. What time is it? All right, okay. So then you've got nature kind of colors, which, you know, your reds, the greens and so on, and landscape kind of colors. We're looking at blues and darks and browns. Winter, natural. So another place you can look at is this website here. Again, you know, that's very good for looking at designs and layouts and things like that. So, you know, take inspiration from these places and have a look. All right, so we're going to be talking about safe fonts here and where you can go with them. So the first thing is, don't try and mix too many typefaces together. Try and have, you know, just a few kind of fonts. So look about 3, possibly 4, you know, different typefaces. You don't want to be going too many. You don't really want to be going too crazy with the typefaces as well. So when we're talking about your audience being able to read it, will your audience be able to read the typeface and understand what you're saying? The size of the typeface, you know, don't have too much small writing all bunged in together, you know, in a space, or, you know, and the opposite as well. Don't make your font size too big within the page face, so it looks a bit like a Jack and Jill, you know, storybook that you're beginning to learn to read with. So if you're using sort of like a word which is full of capitals all the way through, sometimes that's a problem for people to be able to read that. So variations in type size as well, keep those to a minimum, maximum about maybe 3 different type sizes. So think about your type sizes, the fonts that you're using and so on. So these are our safe ones that we're looking at. So in terms of being able to read them for everybody to read. So Times New Roman is a good one. Then we've got the one which was made famous by the underground, Arial. Is Arial? I always want to call it Avriel or something like that. Yeah. Look at that, Avriel. No, Arial. So yeah, there's a good one for. So these are quite safe fonts that most people wouldn't have any difficulty being able to read and understand. Please don't use Comic Sans. Please, I implore you, don't. You can use whatever font you want. If you're not too sure of your font and you just want some kind of ideas, again, just lay it out in an email, send it to me, and just say, is this a good font? And I'll tell you what I think about it. But it's again when you start laying fonts out onto pages as well, and how they work together and how they start to look. What might look good on a screen might not, come across to everybody as being a good one. But definitely, if you can, stay away from the old Comic Sans. Okay, so that's me done now. Hope you got some information out of that. I believe Steve's got all his props ready now for his magic show. So yeah, he's been quite excited about that. So I will now hand you over to Steve.
Morning, folks. I don't have a magic show. I don't have any props. I thought about it because we're talking about home studio, and I was going to bring some stuff in, and then somebody just laughed at me, and I mean laughed at me. So when I was at home last night, I didn't pack what I needed to, but I am going to talk about it when we go through the home studio setup. So this is just a short talk, just to talk to you about what you could be doing at home, because obviously we're pretty much restricted on where we can go shoot at the moment. So we can think creatively about what we can do at home to get images that we need to get. And these link back to some of the Instagram portfolio images as well. So there's food stock, creature, frozen, etc. Not all of them, but just some, just to give you a bit of idea, and just to give you some thoughts about what you might have around the home, that when you're trying to create images, you just have to think a little laterally to think, oh, that's how I could achieve this shot. So a couple of the essentials that you need, always have some blue tack ready and on hand. It's so much easier to use to hold things in place, such as items or small lights, etc. Tape, sellotape, double-sided tape just does not work. But blue tack as well, if any of it creeps into the shot, it's much easier to remove in Affinity as well. So make sure you've got some blue tack on hand. Glycerin, if you wanted to do anything where you want to recreate water droplets, glycerin is what's used in the industry. It's a liquid that holds its form. So when you put little pipettes or droplets of glycerin onto a surface, it holds the form of the droplets for quite a while, unlike water, which runs, evaporates, dries off very quickly. So quite cheap, you get it quite easily from places like Boots or other chemists. I think you can get it from the supermarket as well. You get glycerin from the supermarket?
Yeah, food industry.
Yeah, usually wherever there's food and baking industry, you can get some glycerin. So very handy little tool for replicating water droplets on insects, leaves, that sort of thing. If you're photographing insects, try and find some darkened boxes to put them in. This calms them down before you then photograph them. So obviously, if you are finding any insects, capturing any insects or something, or as subjects to photograph, you want to work ethically with them. So make sure they're calm, they're not distressed or anything like that. By placing them in a dark environment, you can calm them down before photographing them. And the best friend of anybody doing any sort of home DIY, makeshift studio or any photography work is the black tape. So a roll of black gaffer tape will stand you in good stead and will always be in every camera bag that you ever have, because it's always so handy for holding things up, like a piece of paper for a background, a piece of cloth for a background, clipping things to pipes, all sorts. That's just your best friend. USB lighting, there's been a huge advance in USB lighting over the last few years. You can get USB lights, LED lighting, very cheaply off Amazon, very readily available, comes in all shapes and sizes, stuff you can work with, things you can move around and be flexible to get the type of lighting you want. So pretty much cheaper than most torches you buy in shops now. You can get strip lighting, USB, you get ones where you can change the colors, etc. So you can be really creative with your work for a very small investment, looking on Amazon. You can also get magnifying lenses. These are magnifying filters, sorry, that you can attach to the front of your lens, just to give you not quite macro work, but close-up work to enhance the close-up focusing on certain subjects. And if you're ever past B&Q or any of the sort of DIY shops or builders trade shops, just go ask them if they've got a grass sample piece. Sometimes it might cost you £1 or £2, or it might cost you nothing. I've been lucky in the past where I was doing a photo shoot to get a huge strip of AstroTurf to fake a pitch that the person it was just sitting there, wasn't being used, so they just gave us it. So, if you don't ask, you don't get, or as they used to say in Scotland, shy Baron's getting out. So if you've ever got an idea for something like this, just go ask, just go speak to somebody at somewhere like B&Q or Homebase or anywhere like that, and just talk to somebody and say, I'm a student doing a photography project, need to fake some grass. If you've got a little cutout or something like that, you'll be amazed at how many people are willing to help when it's a creative project. So these are the sort of things that you can then end up doing with some basic home kits, a couple of LED lights, as a patch of grass and some conkers. And, even if the close-up filter doesn't fit your camera, like it won't fit or screw on to the Sony cameras, this is where blue tack is your friend. You can use that to stick it, hold it in place, and give yourself that close-up focusing ability. If you've ever done any microscopy work, you know that glass slides are a major help when you want to flatten down things or hold specimens in place. So if you're ever doing something like leaves, maybe for your autumn portfolio piece, you're trying to get them nice and flat, glass slides, best way to do that, to stop things like curling up at the edges, which can affect depth of field and things like that. So if you want a nice flat leaves or other subject matter, don't go squishing bugs all over the place, but glass slides are your friend there. Now this, I was going to say contraption, this gadget is very helpful and readily available on Amazon. I think it comes under the watchmaker's repair kits.
Something like that,
Yeah, it's you'll find it under watchmaker repair kits, but they're fantastic. We have a couple of sets. We use them all the time in macro photography. Used to use them in things like product photography, food photography, things like that. Those little clamping arms, the angles you can get, you can hold things on pins, all sorts of creative angles, keeping things out of the way so you get a nice clean background. Again, they're very inexpensive. I think they're about £10 or £15, but worth their weight in gold. They're really, really handy and allow you to do all sorts when you want to hold out food stock or we use them a lot when we're doing the insects that are pinned, the specimens that are pinned. So we'll put a ball of blue tack in one of the clamp arms, pin in the insect, and because it's got a rotating arm, you can really just get all sorts of weird and wonderful angles that just make your images pop out. So you're going to be looking to do your best with what light is available, and in some of your homes you will need additional lighting such as USB lighting, torches, that sort of thing, but you might only have access to one light source, and then you might find you want to bounce some light back in, and things like drink cartons, so your fresh orange juice or fresh fruit juices in general, any sort of your cartons like that, they all have a foil inner. It keeps the freshness of the drink, but if you cut that open, you then have a panel of reflective material that you can bounce light in and give yourself what looks like a 2-light setup off of 1 light source. So very handy. The other thing that works really well, which I would have brought in had I not been laughed at, is tin foil. And tin foil is obviously very malleable. You can scrunch that up, you can fold it into different shapes, and and really control and aim light with that as well. So even simple tin foil and a torch can give you very creative lighting aspects, especially when you start to scrunch it up and give it lots of different surfaces to bounce off of. Small milk bottles, you put a light inside the small milk bottle, what you get then is a very soft diffused light due to the plastic container, and because it's curved as well, you get a very soft diffused light that's got a nice even spread, rather than just say a harsh directional spread from an LED lamp or a torch or any other sort of bulb. A small milk bottle will give you quite a nice soft diffused light. I've seen people with using larger milk bottles and cutting the tops off, put their flashes nearby to give them a big orb of soft light when they're doing set building. Small mirrors, small compact mirrors, again, very handy for bouncing light in. These ones will give you more refined, controllable bounce. So if you've ever, you've had something like that and you've used a small mirror source or a watch face to get that little beam of light bouncing around, that's the sort of thing you can do here. You can have your lamps, the LED light or torch, and this gives you a much more, I'm trying to think of the word, light spot, which you can control and control the direction, because obviously you've got more control over where you tilt in the mirror and creating the direction. Cocktail sticks, fantastic tool for keeping things like flowers upright, pinning them into the stem, pinning them into a bit of blue tack for a bit of weight, that sort of thing. So again, just think of this, step back and think simply, what can I use to pin things together, hold things upright, and you'll find that sometimes the simplest things, a couple of cocktail sticks, some blue tack or some tape, will give you a large enough support frame to keep a flower upright for when you're photographing it, rather than it drooping over. Like I said, autumn, beautiful time to photograph, sometimes not the best time to get out and about, but there's nothing to stop you printing your own backgrounds, taking images such as off unsplashed places like that, or photographing your own, printing them out and having very creative backgrounds that you can then put into the back of your pictures to throw out of focus and bring in some colour and depth into them. And you'll see an example later on of how this works. Again, don't overcomplicate things like backgrounds and stuff like that. Sometimes something as simple as a clear plate can give you the starting frame, especially if you're thinking about Instagram and the square format, etc. You can layer things up, so you could have a patch of green, then grey, then brown, then green again, and all these layers just build up to the visual aesthetic of the image and make it that much more pleasing. And again, it's just things that are to hand. So if you're looking at something like, say, asparagus stalks for your food subject, laying them on a bed of rice, onto the plate, on grass, this is all just colour and texture separation that then just adds to your image, rather than just plainly on a colour background that might then seem just a little bit flat. But also thinking outside the box. If you're doing food stuff, asparagus stalks look like little trees. So why not go a little bit surreal? Using a small fish tank, some stones, some soil, your grass, your fake grass, and creating, what looks like a tree stalk, asparagus tree even, growing out of the grass. And again, a cocktail stick through the bottom of the asparagus stalk into the grass to hold it upright. Just gives you a bit more of a surreal, yet very interesting and aesthetically pleasing image that's got lots of texture, colour, shape and light as well. And there's just to show you how simple that actually is to achieve with a bit of black paper held up on some frames. Again, you could do this against the wall. If you are leaning things up against the wall, provide a little bit of separation. So if you've got a sheet of cardboard, black or white for your wall, make sure your subject's right not next to it, but try and give a bit of separation. The more separation you can give, the more depth your image will have. Okay, we had this yesterday. Students were working in the studio, trying to lay things up flat against the wall, and then wondering why they couldn't seem to get any depth to their image. You need to provide some separation there. If you have a pet fish, you can get some really creative shots. Glass of water, something a bit different. But again, you've got shapes and layers. You've got water, colour, circles, light bouncing around, giving these really nice reflections around the circular edges on a bit of black card as well. So easy for a cutout, drop it down to black, lay it out on a page, have text around it, etc. One light source there as well. Again, these type of panel lights, LED lights, fairly inexpensive from photography retailers, but also and Amazon as well. But also they are just simple LED lights that you can buy from places like Wilko's, I think some other places, Dunelm, or even your Asda, your big Asda's, your big Tesco's, that sort of thing. If you're shooting glass, get some extra black card to put at the sides. This gives you the refined edge around the outside. If you don't have that, the edges, the light tends to just fall off around the sides, but the black card helps give you that more refined edge. So we talked about frozen earlier, and you know, you've got, most of you, I would hope, a freezer to hand in which you can create your frozen subjects quite literally. And this one was some autumn foliage put into a tub of water and then frozen. And what it's provided is these lovely textures over the conkers and the conker shells. I don't know if the conker shells have a proper name. I was trying to think of this yesterday. But also the leaves. And it's just adding that layer. So rather than it just looking like a pile of autumn foliage that we see around the ground all the time, it's just taking it that next step by providing a texture of frozen water across the top of it, that frosting across, and then bringing in our side lighting to just help lift all those textures up. And you'll see there that that light is what we call feathering. Okay, so it's not directly on to the subject, because with all the frosting across it, that white reflective, it looked very bright, very high key. So by turning it to the side, we're feathering the light, which making it just that little bit softer. So there's experimentation that can be done there as well. And again, you can experiment by putting light sources underneath. So obviously we're shooting through translucent subjects, light water or light leaves. We can play with the light sources. Some of these LEDs, like I say, you can adjust the color temperature. So we have a very cold source underneath to enhance that that vision of ice and frozen, and we have a warm light on the top to enhance the autumn colors. I can't read your lips from here. A blue filter, yes, and obviously you can use a blue filter as well. Blue acetate or some blue. I was talking to the MSCs yesterday about what you call the what do you call the craft paper that's like tracing paper but coloured? We used to call it crepe paper. Yeah, that's what they called it, sugar paper or something.
And don't forget sweet wrappers.
Sweet wrappers are fantastic, right? Great excuse to get a box of Quality Street early on in the Christmas season. It's because those foil sweet wrappers are fantastic as colour gels, especially if you've just got some small light sources or using a torch. Throw a purple over there and enjoy the sweetie at the same time. But crepe paper from any sort of craft shop, toy shop, etc. It's very thin, so it diffuses well, but the colour's heavy enough that it'll give you. So you can go for all sorts there. Okay, so this is just, I shouldn't say just, but it's a lot of thought's gone into it. But in terms of stepping back and thinking, like a lunchbox, Tupperware dish, autumn foliage, frozen overnight, and then photograph. And as it thaws out, that texture, what you get in the colours as well, will change. Bubble wrap, we all love a bit of bubble wrap to pop, but again, you can use it as a textured light modifier. Okay, there are some videos on YouTube, and I'll link them on Moodle as well, but they are on our YouTube page where David goes through the LED lighting, but discusses things that you can put over lights, especially lights that aren't generating a heat, as modifiers to get texture, bouncing light around, just to, so it's not too flat. That's what's happening here. So something like a bubble wrap is just breaking up that light source a little bit. It's hard to describe that in terms of light when you're talking about lamps and stuff, but it's just breaking up that light, giving it texture. Scattering, that's a good word. Scattering the light, so it's not just flat and onto your subject and providing it. Yes, more directional.
Scattering, so it's more than one direction.
Oh, I've said scattering. Yes, scattering, so it's more than one direction.
Okay.
Do you want to pull up a seat? And again, backlighting as well gives you really lovely light to for translucent subjects as well, so you can pick out detail and texture. And don't think always about photographing the whole of your subject, but go in close, as close as you can get. Find a crop that's just bringing the viewer straight in. So again, this one could be under texture or autumn, anything like that, because it's all there for us. Food stuff, food stock. Again, there's another video where we worked in the, actually it was just a kitchen next to the student social space, but we just used things that you'd find in the household, and we photographed a number of food stock items just using chopping boards as backgrounds, using colanders and torches to scatter our light, using slow shutter speeds and a running tap to give movement and motion. And again, I will link to that one as well, so you can get some inspiration, some ideas for that. But just sometimes taking, you know, 3 plain onions and just leaving them in the skin, just it gives texture, it gives color, it gives, you know, things for people to look at, and grouping them in groups of 3 so they're aesthetically pleasing as well. Some of these images do not need to be overly complicated in terms of thought. It's all in the creative execution where the images become stronger. So it's not about being simpler, it's more about just stepping back and thinking, how can I create a creative image? And if you use a reflective surface, so if you get some perspex or plastic or a mirror, then you can obviously get reflection in there as well. Find a snail in the garden, just bring it inside, put it again on a little bit of Tupperware with some stones, a little bit of water just to give them some nice color, some richness to them. And you've got a shot that could have been lit and shot outside in the garden, but in the comfort of your own home. Well, in the case of this slideshow, in the comfort of David's front room, where this was all shot and made. Okay, so again, working with your camera angles, top down, taking out that Tupperware box, not being able to see it at all. Again, just giving you something there that people might think you might have shot outside. Same with, if you can't find a living creature, using things like foliage, conchs, conch shells, spending a bit of time dressing the set. Okay, so not just throwing everything down on the table and then photographing it, looking at your angles, looking at how things are laid out, what you're going to get in focus. This conch shell, just what do you call it, gardening it a little bit, you know, using a knife just to make sure that the shell's nicely cut, nice and smooth. Again, just to give it that bit more aesthetic pleasing. And here, bringing in things like your paper backgrounds, some leaves and soil. Although, again, this could be in a tub. By using the paper background, again, you're just enhancing that look that could be outside in the field. Okay, so you're not lying here. Set building is very much a form of photographic practice in art. It's used in every documentary that you watch, every Planet Earth that you watch. If they need to do a small time, they're looking to get something specific, they build sets. They build sets like this using soil and plants, etc. The other thing to bear in mind as well is light source. I thought about it there. If you can't get hold of LED lights and you want to use window lights, bear in mind to shoot with the window light behind you for nice soft wraparound. Okay, if you're worried about that you're covering too much of that light, use self-timer and move out the way. If you use the window light as a side source, bear in mind that you're going to have half your image into shadow, so that might be something you're after in terms of lifting texture in contrast. And if you have blinds, not the big roller blinds, they're quite handy because they diffuse the light, but if you have the Venetian blinds, is it Venetian blinds? Thank you. Again, how you tilt them will control how much light comes through as well. Okay, so working close to your light sources, working on areas close to window sources, give you nice soft light as well. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Trying to send out emails for the next couple of weeks, what's going to be going on.
Yeah, so we'll be sending you out emails over the next couple of weeks about what's going to be going on, what's going to be happening, where talks are going to be, etc. And we will keep updating the Moodle page with today's recording, with other YouTube videos. Once you're on our YouTube channel, have a look around. There are videos from previous years that you can look at for inspiration as well. Okay, so that's goodbye from me and good night from him. Thank you very much. Any questions, throw it to Padlet, and we'll see you all very soon. Stop this recording now.